Today we are going to study Obst model. So he is an economist, and it's essentially, uh, mathematically speaking, it's an application of two variable phase diagram that we have studied. So in essence, apart from the macroeconomics involved, to the extent mathematics is involved, is that in the end of transferring or transforming the macroeconomics here into mathematics, we will get two simultaneous differential equation, two equation system, based on which we are going to draw a phase diagram, and we will see uh, which equilibrium out of the four that we have studied appear, and talk about the dynamic stability then. Okay. So before going into all those phase diagram and formulation, let's look at the objective of the model. So what is the objective? We are going to show, the model shows the ineffectiveness of conventional counter-cyclical monetary policy when inflation adjustment mechanism at work. That's a long sentence. That's quite a long sentence. So what is, first of all, what is counter-cyclical? What does this word means? Essentially, we say with the change in GDP, or let's say change in Y, right? Change in Y with time. That's what we say as business cycle. So when you use terms like this one, counter cyclical, or if we use terms like pro cyclical, what we mean is that here in the monetary policy, okay, the relevant variable is obviously money supply. So when I'm saying monetary policy, I'm talking about either increasing or decreasing the money supply. Now, counter-cyclical means that if I see that Y is decreasing, so if Y is decreasing, the monetary policy will be to increase money supply, and that's how it becomes counter-cyclical. So it goes in the opposite direction of Y. Okay, and also if Y increases too much, then to avoid problem or a bubble burst, we want to control the money supply. So the money supply will lower the money supply. So that's, first of all, that's what it meant by counter cyclical monetary policy. Now this kind of a policy, this one is expansionary, and the other one is contractionary. Now this kind of policy making is very common in macroeconomics that we have studied, right? And more so if you study ISLM, this kind of policy making becomes very normal. Now, what is inflation adjusted adjustment mechanism? Obviously, to make a concrete mathematical structure of the model, we will have a typical differential equation which will state this mechanism, so to say. Okay, but macro, in sense of macroeconomics, what we mean by this is basically that money supply increases, when money supply increases, it has an effect on, obviously, price level. That is something that we first learned in classical model, which says that inflation is a monetary phenomenon. So if money supply increases, it is natural that price level will increase. But here we will see that we are talking about an inflation adjustment mechanism. Okay, and that will connect, instead of price level, that will connect money supply with inflation rate. Here we will symbolize with a small p, but in standard macroeconomics book you will see this symbol of pi to denote inflation. So anyways, what we are saying is that inflation adjustment mechanism means that if money supply increases, then it will have an effect on inflation, and this effect, it is generated automatically. So what we are saying here is this: if, let's say, Y is low, okay, if Y is low, so we are going through a downturn or things like that, then the conventional models like classical or uh, ISLM, they will suggest an expansionary monetary policy, or the monetary policy, let's put it this way, the monetary policy that they will suggest will be counter cyclical. So they will ask us to increase the money supply. Now, if I increase the money supply, then this increase will have an effect on inflation, right? And yes, it will increase inflation. Now, if it increases inflation, then what we are trying, we'll show here that if an increase in money supply increases inflation, then it may become ineffective. It may become ineffective in a dynamic structure to complete its job of increasing Y. Okay. Essentially, we will, end of the day, we'll show that basically the system will fail to converge. So there will be dynamic instability. All right. So that's our objective here. Okay. Now let's start with the kind of the way with which we are going to show it. So in this model, what we'll do is this. We're going to look at two monetary policy rules. So we are going to look at two monetary policy rules. Okay. One is obviously the conventional one, and the other one is that is suggested. So one is conventional and the other one is obviously suggested by OBST. Okay. And in terms of the objective, is very simple. We will see that this one as a rule is ineffective, but this one as a rule is effective. Okay. But before all that, let us write the inflation adjustment mechanism, that equation or differential equation to be correct. Okay, so what is it? dp dt. So this is small p signifying inflation, then h to 1 minus md by ms. Okay. So now, obviously here, small p denotes inflation. Okay, so that's our structure here. And as you see that if this ratio goes less than 1, okay, then given this term is positive and this term cannot be negative. So we are interested in ratio, right? We are interested in ratio. Now, if money supply is higher than money demand, then definitely it will be positive, right? So I increase money supply. I increase money supply here. I reduce this ratio. I make it positive, and that means that with time it will have a positive effect on inflation. So that's the equation we are dealing with here. Again, at equilibrium, MD will equal to MS. So that means this will become 1. So it will become 0. And that means that dp dt will be 0. Now, dp dt equal to 0 means stable inflation. That is different from what we have studied in macroeconomics. There we have studied about a stable price level, but here we are talking about a stable inflation. So the inflation rate, it will not change. Okay. So that's the equational structure here. And to say this will be our one of the equations. Okay. So you have to kind of keep this in mind. Now we are going to introduce one notation which will simplify our job. So define mu as md divided by ms. Okay, and then we will write this equation. Okay, now two things are here. First of all, we have studied the theory of demand for money, and there we have seen that according to Cambridge School, this is the structure which has a different symbol here, right? A into P into Q. So it's basically the change in notation. But apart from that, what we have here is basically our standard idea that if this demand is transaction demand for money, then it will be a fraction of the nominal income. So that is the idea here. So implicitly somehow we are saying that this is basically transaction demand for money. Okay, so that's something which is quite implicit in the structure. Then, since it is a dynamic structure, all of these variables are function of time. So that is something that we must explicitly say at least once. And this A is constant. A is a constant. Now, we will apply what we know as growth accounting. So before doing all of that, just write it like this. So here is mu t, which will be this. Okay. Now, so if I use the culture of growth accounting now, what we will do is basically this. First, we will take log here, right? So this will make log mu t equal to log a plus log p of t plus log q of t, sorry, then minus of log ms of t. And then if I differentiate, I get this structure. This will obviously become 0, right? Okay. Now we will introduce symbols. So we'll write this as P, as this is the rate of inflation. Then we'll write small q and small m. Okay. You can recognize this symbol. We have used it earlier also for this term dms dt divided by ms. Now, what is this one? This one is basically, as I said, this is inflation rate, right? What is q? It's basically rate of growth of real GDP. Price is separated here. And this one is rate of growth of money supply. Okay, so in this equation, we have our relevant variables, right? Okay. So I'll write this equation as d mu dt by mu. So this is our another equation, and we can change it like this. So it can become d mu dt equal to p plus q minus m into mu. So this is our second equation. Okay. So this is our second equation. And let me just write the other one. And the other one is dp dt equal to, I'll use the symbol P dash equal to H into 1 minus mu. This is just to match with the kind of symbols that we have used while learning two variable phase diagram, nothing else. Okay, now we have our two equations and we can start drawing our phase diagram. But before drawing that, we need another assumption. Because here we have P and Q and M. Okay, so before drawing, we'll take this assumption, and the assumption is M is exogenous, and that is quite tenable because money supply is the decision on the growth rate of money supply is taken by the central bank of every country. Okay. Now, let us delve into the drawing. So here we will draw our phase diagram. Okay. And before drawing, step by step, we will go. Now, first, look at this. We have stated that H is positive. This means that P dash equal to 0 if and only if mu equal to 1. Right? And this is one of our demarcation lines. Again, mu is greater than 0. Right? Because demand for money, it cannot be 0. So that's a suitable assumption. And given that mu dash equal to 0 if and only if P equal to M minus Q. Okay, so just like we have drawn the two variable phase diagram in the earlier class. Here also, instead of X dash and Y dash, we have P dash and mu dash. And following that, we get these two equations. Okay, so let's start. And we'll try doing it step by step. So first, in this axis we'll measure mu, and in this axis we'll measure P. Okay. So now if we want to draw P dash equal to 0, this means mu equal to 1. So let us mark 1 here. So this becomes our P dash equal to 0. And then again, if we want to draw mu dash equal to 0, we have P equal to M minus Q. So let us have M minus Q here. So this will be our mu dash equal to 0. Okay. Now just note that M minus Q is positive. We have taken it to be positive, and that's also quite okay because we can easily assume that the rate of inflation is positive, right? There's no harm in that. So rate of inflation is positive. The rate of inflation is positive. And so M minus Q is positive. So from equation 1, we have got this line which is parallel to the horizontal axis, and from equation 2, we have got this line which is parallel to vertical axis. Now, the next job is to find where we should write, on which side we must write plus and on which side we must write minus. Okay. But before that, again, know that when P dash equal to 0, it means mu equal to 1, and this means MD equal to MS. So on this line, you can say that the money market is cleared. Okay, by E we denote the equilibrium just like earlier. Now, to determine which side is plus and which side is minus, it's very easy, right? We just have to differentiate these two equations. So if I go for differentiation, then I find this del P dash del mu. Okay. So del P dash del mu equal to minus H, which is negative, and del mu dash del P equal to mu, which is positive. Okay. So then what do we have here? So del P dash del mu, P dash equal to 0, at P dash is equal to 0. So this means if we go above mu equal to 1, we will have, if we go above mu equal to 1, then we will have this minus, and below we have this plus. And again, given mu is positive, okay, at mu dash equal to 0, if I reduce P, so we'll reduce mu dash. So that means this side is minus and this side is plus. I'll say it again. If I increase mu, then P dash reduces. So this becomes minus and this becomes plus. And here, if I reduce P, mu dash reduces. So this becomes minus, the left side becomes minus and right side becomes plus. Okay. All right. Now we have what we want to have. And then we need those arrows in these four regions, right? So what will the arrows be? So here, if we have, it will rise, and here it will go in this direction. At this region, if I see, okay, there will be two movements. One is along this axis, right? Because it is plus on this region, mu dash becomes positive. So with time, in this region, mu dash becomes positive. So with time, mu will increase, right? And also in this region, P dash becomes positive. So with time, P will increase, right? Okay. So here P increases, but mu decreases. Here mu increases, but P decreases. And here both of them decreases. Okay. All right. So now we'll go for the dotted lines and we'll see what we have. Okay. So if this is the arrow, then the joint movement will be in this direction, right? Again, crossing this, okay, let's draw the dotted line here also. Now crossing this, it will be in this direction. So it will go like this, right? Again, crossing this region, it will go in this direction. So this will be our arrowhead. So then it will go to this direction. And in this region, the joint movement will be towards this direction. So we will have a full circle, right? Let's say it again. These are our directional arrows and they give us the movement of the streamlines, right? Okay. Okay, so let's just go at the diagram again. So here we have for two demarcation lines, one is mu equal to 1, so we have drawn it at p for p dash equal to 0. So that is our first demarcation line, right? And this is parallel to the horizontal axis. For the second one, mu dash equal to 0 implies p equal to m minus q, right? And this is parallel to the vertical axis. Also, we assumed, which is quite a tenable assumption, that rate of inflation is positive. So we have m minus q positive here. So that gives our two demarcation lines. Then the second job is to find which region is, in which region we have a minus and in which region we have a plus. That is, in which region mu dash reduces or p dash reduces, and in which region mu dash and p dash increases. So for that, we have found the slope from these two equations. Right? Now from these two equations, we see that del p dash del mu is negative. So this says that if mu increases, then p dash reduces. So here we have p dash equal to 0 line. From this line, if mu increases, then p dash reduces. That means p dash becomes negative. So we have a minus sign here. And on the other side is just the opposite. So we have a plus here. On the other hand, if del mu dash del p is positive, so here it is mu dash equal to 0. Now, if p increases, mu dash increases. So p increases in this direction, right? P increases in this direction, and here I have mu dash equal to plus mu dash positive here. So I have denoted it by plus sign. And so symmetrically, the opposite side will be minus. So this is our structure. And from that, we have found the direction of the trajectories. So here we have in this region, let's say if we start with, okay, let's start with the first quadrant, let's say. So if we start from region 1, so here mu dash is positive. That means with time, mu increases, right? So if mu increases, then the arrow goes upward. Okay, so here also we have the arrow going upward. And in this region, also p dash becomes negative. So that means with time, p dash reduces. So the arrow which is there for p, it goes towards the origin. So here it is going towards the origin. But in this region, it is plus. So it is going away from the origin. Okay, here. So that's how we get these arrows, all these 4 directional arrows. And from these directional arrows, we know that the vector sum will provide us the direction in which the trajectories will go. So if we start from this point, okay, if we start from this point, then we see that here the trajectory goes in the, what we say is southeast direction, right? And then it goes to the northeast direction, I'll say. And then it goes, obviously this is symmetrically opposite. This arrow is symmetrically opposite to this in terms of direction. And this arrow is going to a symmetrically opposite direction of this in terms of direction. Right? Okay. So now our diagram is complete. And we can erase for the time being all these equations that helped us to draw it. Okay. Now, what do we have here in terms of equilibrium? Here we have, so this is a vortex, right? This is a vortex, and obviously it is unstable equilibrium, And unstable equilibrium implies that unless I start at point E, I can't reach E. So the only way to reach the equilibrium is to start at equilibrium. So given this is unstable, that is, given there is an inflationary adjustment mechanism, if we go by our conventional counter-cyclical monetary policy, what happens is that, what it says is that there will be never ending inflation. Right? So this system will just go round and round and round. So then we have shown, at least in part, what we wanted to show. That is this setup, okay, with inflation adjustment mechanism at work. What is happening here? There is no dynamic stability. Okay. So that's the first point that we are going, that's the point we are going to show, that with conventional policies, that is our scenario. Now, one may argue that this model is drawn with assuming that M is exogenous. We have assumed M to be exogenous. So a more generalized approach will be to endogenize M. So next, first we will endogenize M. So that will be our first work, and we'll show that things are not really changing. So we'll again return to this dynamic instability, and then we'll go for Obst prescription. Obst prescription, where he says that connect the rate of growth of money supply to the rate of change of inflation. So we'll take that policy structure where M is related to the rate of change of inflation, okay, and we'll see that that will generate a converging structure.